But the one thing when I said, oh, this shit is definitely over, and I spoke about it on probably Drink Champs a couple years ago, is when I walked in the studio and it was Bean by myself. It was Beans, Bleak, and Jay in the studio. And I walked in and all of them stopped talking. They just was looking at me. And I was trying to speak to them. Like, hey, what's up? What's good? And they like, just head nodding me. And I'm like, these just was talking about me. Because nobody just abruptly stops talking about whatever they were talking about. And then Beans confirmed it later that they was talking about me. So when that happened, I said, oh, these they never gonna fuck with me.
Cam'ron just confirmed what a lot of people in the streets been whispering about for years. Jay-Z didn't just step away from Roc-A-Fella. He strategically turned the whole label against Cam and Dame Dash from the inside. This wasn't just a case of personalities clashing. Nah, this was sabotage disguised as business. Let's break it all the way down.
When did you feel that was about to split up, the Roc-A-Fella thing?
I don't know. It's a good question. For me, when it was going to split up, I don't know. I just know that it was a point, it got to a point for me, for Cam, to where I got there, when I say there to Roc-A-Fella, is that I was, and I don't want to use the word kiss ass, but that's basically what I was doing, pause. Because I didn't want to step on nobody's toes, and I just wanted to be cool. Kind of how you see Jimmy Butler coming into the Golden State Warriors. You want to work within the system. You don't want to do too much. You want to sit there because they already got their thing going. It was even to the point where Dame had other distribution at other companies. And I was saying, I don't want to go to the Roc-A-Fella Def Jam. Let's do Roc-A-Fella Electra or Roc-A-Fella Columbia, because yeah, I have a distribution outside of Def Jam. And I told him this. I said, I don't want to do it. I don't want to step on nobody's toes. He said, nah, it'll be good. It'll be cool, da, da, da. So I tried to be the Jimmy Butler of that situation. But it just gives you, you know, when you there and you be like, yo, hey guys, how you doing? And you just know that they not vibing with you. It just gets to a point where it's like, oh, well, I just got to be here and come to work and do what I got to do. And after that, what happens. But I don't know exactly when I thought it was over, but when it was over for everybody else, because you got to think, it may have been over for Jay-Z and his brain at one point in time, when Memphis Bleak or whatever, he thought it was over. Dame was saying that I can't hold this together anymore, or Beanie Siegel. Everybody has their own time probably when they think that this shit ain't gonna work no more. For me, the one thing that stood out, and I obviously talked about before, I could talk about it, tell you 100 different scenarios that probably happened, but the one thing when I said, oh, this shit is definitely over, and I spoke about it on probably Drink Champs a couple years ago, is when I walked in the studio and it was by myself. It was Beans, Bleak, and Jay in the studio. And I walked in and all of them stopped talking. They just was looking at me. And I was trying to speak to them. Like, hey, what's up? What's good? And they like, just head nodding me. And I'm like, these just was talking about me. Because nobody just abruptly stops talking about whatever they were talking about. And then Beans confirmed it later that they was talking about me. So when that happened, I said, oh, these they never gonna fuck with me. So that's kind of the point where I felt like, all right, I guess I could stop trying to be friends, because obviously these ain't fuck with me. But I think a lot attributed also to where I just was moving fast, man. And when I say fast, it's because I was in a bad situation, and Dame told me that this would probably be my last opportunity in music if I don't succeed. So I was just trying to do everything in my power not to make that my last opportunity before I have to get a job.
When Cam'ron and Dipset got to Roc-A-Fella Records, they didn't just come to join the team. They came bringing that heat. I'm talking about songs like Oh Boy, Hey Ma, and Welcome to New York City. Those joints had the summer on lock. Dipset gave Roc-A-Fella Records a whole new identity. They were the flashy, pink mink wearing rebels in a crew that was known for Marcy Project's grit and State Property's Philly aggression. But with all that heat came friction. Cam'ron said it himself. He came in trying to fit in, trying not to step on toes. He was trying to be the Jimmy Butler of the team. In his words, just working within the system and trying to blend into an already established chemistry. But just like Jimmy and the Golden State Warriors probably won't work out, Dipset and Roc-A-Fella were built too different as well. Dipset moved with their Harlem swag, no filter, loud fashion, and big personalities. That kind of energy can shake up a locker room, and that's exactly what it did. Kim even tried to avoid conflict on the business side too. Dame Dash had other distribution offers from Elektra, Columbia, and etc. And Cameron said, "Nah, I don't want to do it. I don't want to step on nobody's toes." That alone tells you that Cameron wasn't coming in on some takeover mindset. He wanted peace. But even with the hits they brought in, it wasn't enough to break into the inner circle. He wasn't getting the warm welcome. Once you start feeling like you're not vibing with the crew and your efforts are still getting brushed off, the tension starts to build. Even though Cameron and Dipset kept scoring points, the team chemistry just wasn't right at all. And the real problem? The players who were supposed to be teammates were secretly playing a whole different game. Now this part right here is where things get real shady. When Cameron was named the vice president of Roc-A-Fella Records, that's when things got real. Jay-Z wasn't feeling that at all. And that's when he allegedly started plotting, not with contracts or lawyers, but with silence, distance, and division. According to Cam, he walked into the studio one day and saw Jay-Z, Beanie Siegel, and Memphis Bleek all sitting there chopping it up. As soon as he walked in, they stopped talking. Cold silence, side eyes, and head nods. Cameron said it himself. "They just head nodding me. I'm like, these ends just was talking about me." And then Beans confirmed it later. That was the exact moment Cam realized something was off. Jay-Z didn't confront Cam. He didn't air out no disagreements publicly. He didn't send nobody to talk it out. He just froze them out, slowly and systematically. And Cam started noticing that his attempts to fit in, to show respect, were falling on deaf ears. He came in saying, "Hey guys, what's good?" trying to play it cool. But all he got was blank stares. The cold shoulder turned into a cold war. This was sabotage, not loud, but silent and strategic. Jay-Z had the keys to the building, but instead of opening the door, he quietly locked it behind him and told the crew not to answer when Cam knocked. Once Jay didn't get his way, and once Dame started making executive moves without him, that's when the chess pieces started moving. Cam might have had a title on paper, but Jay made sure he was never really part of the family. Now fast forward to today, and you can still hear it in Cameron's voice. This whole Roc-A-Fella situation still leaves a bad taste in his mouth. Not because of money and not because of clout, but because he genuinely tried. He tried to show love. He tried to fit in. He tried to respect the empire that Jay, Dame, and Biggs had already built. But none of that mattered. Cam said flat out that Dame told him this might be his last shot at the music industry. So he moved fast. He went hard and dropped hit after hit. He held Dipset down and still tried to wave the rock flag at the same time. And still they didn't rock with him. Cam said, "I got there, and I didn't want to use the word kiss A, but that's basically what I was doing. I just wanted to be cool. I tried to be the Jimmy Butler of that situation." That quote right there says it all. Cam was trying to blend in, not take over, but Roc-A-Fella was already split down the middle. Jay-Z was quiet quitting the label. Beanie and Bleek were sticking with Jay. And Dame was pulling Cam and Dipset into the picture, creating two different factions under the same roof. So when Cam walked into the studio and they were all silent, that was the dagger. That was the moment he realized no matter how many records he sold or how respectful he tried to be, they never planned to let him sit at the big boy table. He was good for numbers, but not for family. And that's a cold realization, especially when you came in trying to do things the right way. Now let's talk about Dame Dash, because this whole thing wouldn't have happened without him either. Dame brought Cameron into the building when most people thought Cameron's career was over. Nobody was checking for Cam heavy after his deal with Untamed Entertainment went sour. But Dame saw something in him. Dame was like, "Let's bring Cam to the Rock." And that was all love. That was loyalty, and that was Harlem standing together. But the mistake? Dame made that decision alone. He didn't run it by Jay, and he didn't build consensus with the rest of the label. He didn't even prep the roster. He just brought Cam in and gave him a position of power. That might have been noble, but it was also very reckless. When you're running a multi-million-dollar label with other partners, you can't just make executive moves like that without checking in. Dame gambled on loyalty, but he forgot he was playing a political game. Jay-Z already had his own plans, and bringing Cameron in as a VP, especially during a time when Jay and Dame were already butting heads, now that just poured gasoline on the fire. And even though Dame Dash did it out of love, it gave Jay the perfect excuse to play the victim. He could now frame Cam's arrival as a threat, as a power grab, and as a setup. That's how Jay-Z flipped the locker room. He whispered just enough to make Cam look like an outsider. He kept it quiet, played it slick, but make no mistake, he turned the label against Cam piece by piece. And the saddest part about all this? Dame meant well. He really thought bringing his homie on board would help everybody. He thought it'd be strength in numbers, but instead it exposed how fractured Roc-A-Fella really was. So here we are, years later. Cameron still remembers the moment they stopped talking when he walked in that studio. Still remembers how they all head nodded him with fake love. Still remembers how Beans confirmed they were definitely talking behind his back. It all goes to show, it wasn't just business, it was personal. Y'all let me know in the comments, do you think Jay-Z was wrong for how he handled Cameron? Or was Dame Dash out of pocket for not running that major decision by his partners? Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you don't miss my next breakdown. Peace.